Hi, this is Lori Johnson with Hancock Whitney Bank, and you're listening to Local Leaders, the podcast. Visit localleadersthepodcast.com for previous episodes or for information on appearing on the show.
Hey everyone, before we get into today's episode, I want to shout out our sponsor, Level Dumpsters. Now look, it's fall and you're going to be out there in short order and you're probably going to be raking up a bunch of leaves. And when you're doing that, you're probably going to notice a bunch of things in your backyard that you need to get rid of. That's why you need to call Level Dumpsters. They have multiple size dumpsters, including 15, 20, 25, even 30-yard dumpsters for all your dumping needs. Whether it's cleaning up that backyard after you rake up those leaves, or you have a construction site and you need to clean that up, Level Dumpsters is who you need to call. And let me tell you, the great thing about all this is that if you mention Local Leaders, the podcast, you're going to get $100 off just by mentioning Local Leaders. So give them a call at 225-310-6647 or book online at leveldumpsters.com. Level Dumpsters is a verified partner of Local Leaders, the podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Local Leaders, the podcast. And I got a familiar face probably by now sitting across from me. Miss Lindon MaGee is candidate for district judge in Division L. So first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you back. This is your second appearance.
Yes, it is. And thanks again so much for having me back.
I love it. And look, you must have loved it so much you couldn't stand it. You had to come back for more.
Exactly.
Maybe we'll make you a co-host one day. You've been on the campaign trail since last time we talked. I look on your Facebook, I follow your page, and you are everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
How's that been going?
I literally feel like I am running for judge.
You are in all senses of the word. That's true. And meeting a lot of people, all that sort of stuff. How's that been?
It has been wonderful.
Yeah.
I have just really enjoyed being able to talk to everyone along the campaign trail and speak with them and get their feedback about the issues that they're facing in our communities.
Very good. And just a little refresher quickly for those that may not have seen the last podcast, although we have thousands of people that saw that. Which is always a good thing, getting your message out. Let's give everybody a little bit of your background again and what inspired you to pursue a career in law.
Well, my name is Lindy MaGee. I am running for district court judge on the November ballot. I'm a lifelong resident of our district. I live here with my husband and our two little boys. I have been in the legal field for the past 15 years. I've worked as a victims advocate for the district attorney's office. I've worked in juvenile court with our public defender's office. I've worked in private practice. Most recently, I've been a staff attorney for our judges' chambers. And, you know, people ask when I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. It was really very early on that I decided that. And it's just because I see it as a way to help the community. You know, you think of Atticus Finch and how he's was able to help out his neighbors who might not have been helped and get paid in apples. And yeah. I just really love that.
So we can pay you in apples.
I have been paid in a pig before.
Have you really?
That's been, I guess, the most interesting form of payment.
That's awesome. There's a lot of experiences you go through when you're a judge, and there's experiences you go through prior to that as an attorney. What specific experiences would you say make you feel prepared for that role as a judge?
Honestly, I feel like, I guess you'd say my resume. Mm-hmm. It covers pretty much anything that you can think of that would be before a judge.
Yeah.
But I really feel like it's my personal experiences that make me more qualified even than my resume would.
Yeah. You've served on both the prosecutor side of things and the defense attorney side of things.
Right.
I think that's very important when seeking a judgeship. Would you agree?
I do. And I think it just allows you to see the bigger picture. I know when you're in court sometimes you may be advocating for your client and you truly believe your case and you think that your client should win. And you're going through this argument, and you're hoping that the judge sees it your way as well. But in 2 weeks, you may be representing someone and you're using your opponent from that prior case, you're using their argument and trying to amp it up.
Yeah.
And it just lets you see that there truly are two sides to every case.
Yeah, there really are. And you know, the beautiful thing to me about the law is it applies to everyone. And so whether you're a prosecutor and you're prosecuting someone that may have done bad things, or you're a defense attorney and you're protecting that particular person's right to the law and to make sure that all their rights are given and covered. Both of those things are very important, and you can relate as a judge to both sides of that. You know what it's like to be on a prosecutor side of that and a defense attorney side. I think that's important.
And then too, just as a staff attorney, you're able to look at these cases objectively as well. And what I've seen in that role is you can look at the case and weigh each person on each side, whether that's the state's interest in ensuring that justice is served, or whether you're looking at a defendant and trying to figure out why they're really there and what is going to actually rehabilitate them in a way that's best for our community.
Right.
And you're able to explore options to try to figure that out and figure out what's appropriate in different cases.
Your particular division, Division L, focuses, is there like a percentage that maybe 40% family law, or how does that work?
Well, at least initially, it will take over 20% of all of the juvenile cases in Livingston, St. Helena, Tangipahoa, with a caveat in St. Helena. But it will take 20% of our juvenile caseload, our misdemeanors, and our traffic cases.
Gotcha. And so 20% of that will be juvenile cases, which is, you have a family. You have how many children? Two children, married, and you kind of know you can relate to that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
that's important.
yes, and I've seen, the struggles that we all face as parents. I know there's so many times before I had kids where I would go, oh, mine would never. And they have already.
Look, before I was a parent, I can't tell you how many times I said, especially when you're much younger and you say, I'm not going to tell my kid what my parents told me. I sound just like my parents now when I'm talking to my kids.
Oh, yes.
I mean, just like them. And there's only one way to go through that, and that's to go through that.
Right.
And that's the only way you can relate to that. You think until you have children, and then you realize.
Right. And
real quick.
even just realizing that each child is different. I know my oldest and my youngest, they are completely different personalities.
Yes.
They have their own strengths, their own weaknesses. Even at their ages, they react differently to stress. They react differently to praise. And I feel like that's so important.
Yeah, it really is.
I also know the different stresses that it places on you as a parent. I know, before my Christmas shopping list, was much different. And now it's already, it's the beginning of October, and I'm already thinking and trying to plan, okay, what's my Christmas budget? How are we making this work? What do the kids want? What do they need?
Yeah.
And that's just added stress along with the grocery bill as you're sorting all of this out. I think that all of that weighs heavier on you whenever you've got little kids at home.
Yeah, it really does. You have a responsibility there. And I remember distinctly when I had my children, that I grew up like that. The second my wife and I knew she was pregnant, it was like I matured.
Yes.
All of a sudden. It wasn't all about me anymore. And those things are important. Now, I do want to talk a little bit more about your background. And first of all, you have a wonderful father who, when you came on last time, I posted some short clips, and one of them was specifically talking about your dad. And he actually commented on it. He's like, that's right. And so really love that. But you come from a very hardworking family, real people, right? Regular people, plant workers and hard workers, people that we can all relate to, right?
Right. Right now, my dad, he is on a turnaround right now working in Chalmette, so he is home, but he's on a night shift right now, and he's been asking still, hey, what can I do for you? If there's anything I can do before I go to sleep when I get home in the morning, let me know. What signs need to go out,
that's
everything
awesome.
Else. And I'm going, you go sleep. We're good.
Yeah. You got to work.
Right.
Yeah. And look, we obviously, I'm sure you would say you can't do it without them. Those soldiers that you have that are putting up signs and all those sorts of things, that's important.
Yes.
For sure.
Even, especially him being on the night shift right now, has been beneficial because my mom will come stay the night with me.
Yeah.
And she can just stay, like this morning when I left, my kid, my youngest, he's still in the bed sleeping. I can leave. She's just there. It makes it so much easier. I have a great support system with, all of our family.
Love that. I have kind of a question you would commonly ask someone running for judge, I would say, and that is, how do you plan to engage with the community if you're elected? Community's big around here.
I think just being a part of the community and going out and still continuing, to talk with people and realizing what they're going through. And, I think it's important to know the struggles that the people who are in front of you in court are facing.
Yeah.
I know just
it's very important.
Being at school with my kids, I know that's so huge. You see what's going on, you hear different things, and just being in the school and in the community is so important as well.
You discussed the judgeship and the parishes that it covers, and that is Tangi, Livingston, and St. Helena, correct?
Right.
And there's kind of a caveat with St. Helena. Explain that real quick.
So this seat will be on the ballot in St. Helena.
Yeah.
But this judge will not go to St. Helena, at least initially, probably for the first at least 3 years. Yeah. It is set up to not go to St. Helena.
Okay.
But again, still on the ballot there.
Yeah, you can still vote.
Yes. And as, everything, I guess, is subject to change.
Sure.
So the biggest issue is if we're able to get another juvenile judge, then that would be subject to change.
Yeah. And this whole division is a good example of that. I mean, this division didn't exist before now, right?
Right.
And that kind of leads me into my next question, and that is one thing that you will hear from the community, right? In any community you go to throughout the country is that the wheels of justice just seem to turn slow. They do turn, but it's a very, very slow process. Number one, would you agree with that? And number two, how do we rectify that?
I do agree with that, and I think that a lot of it's very frustrating. It would be just agency struggles. I know, say from COVID, we had a backlog as far as getting fingerprints tested, DNA testing, everything like that. It creates a backlog, and that slows things down. So when you're in court trying to get a case to trial and they're going, well, we still don't have the DNA back, we got to wait. And it's very frustrating, but I think just working with different branches and trying to figure out how we can more efficiently handle these things and increase the speed that these cases are getting to us would be very helpful.
And adding this division does help with that.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's a product of efforts being made to increase the speed there, and that's always a good thing.
Yes.
What is your approach to ensuring fairness and impartiality in a courtroom? How do you make sure that everything stays fair and impartial?
To me, it's just about keeping an open mind and knowing that these are people in front of you, and it could be your kid, it could be your cousin, it could be your sister, and that's who you're dealing with. Yeah. And you want to treat that person accordingly. You want them to be treated how you would hope that your family was treated in court.
Yeah.
And that's if my family member committed a terrible crime, I would still hope that when they go to court, they are treated I would expect the sentence to be swift, and I would expect it to be just. But I would also hope that people still realize that I'm a mom sitting in the pew watching my child.
Yes.
And I think that you have to keep that consideration.
What do you think the biggest challenge is for judges these days in this community?
I think the caseload certainly is a challenge.
Yeah.
Just being bogged down, having so many cases on your dockets and trying to sort them out. I think that that's a huge challenge. And our judges, they have done a great job trying to move cases through. Just our court calendar itself is limiting. We're a 3-parish district, and you only have so many trial weeks.
Yeah.
You can't just set things. I know some people think, oh, just put it on the calendar. But to do that, you have to make sure, is there a courtroom available? Is there a court reporter? Is your minute clerk there? There's a lot that goes into it that has to be planned.
That's true. And not in your normal, the everyday person that doesn't spend all day in court wouldn't know that. I mean,
Right.
they don't see that backside of everything that makes those wheels turn.
Right.
I guess
And
you could
also,
say.
social media, I feel like, has given a new challenge. I think in some ways,
Putting it mildly.
yes, in some ways, I think it's good, and
Yeah.
it makes sure you're held accountable for what you do.
Yeah.
But it's also very hard to get the full story out, especially from the judiciary.
Yeah.
You're not able to comment on things, so you're not even able to walk out of the courthouse and say, well, look, this is what's going on. This is why all of this is happening. Your hands are kind of tied, and you just have to sit back and hope that people do their homework and find out the full story.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. Great point. And that is something that social media, there's some positives to it and there's some negatives to it. And there's a big rush to judgment sometimes, maybe in some cases, from the public, not necessarily from the legal side of it. How would you handle cases that attract significant public attention?
I've worked with 13 sitting and retired judges extensively, and I've been very privileged to have been able to do that. And watching them, I have learned, I think, that the best and most appropriate response to those cases is to remove that from your thought process.
Yeah.
Try your best to separate yourself from that. And it's hard. I mean, you've got, you're going home, your husband's telling you, hey, they're talking about your case on social media. I saw this on Facebook. What's going on? I can remember a case that we were handling a few years ago. My mom called me on my way to work going, what did this judge do? I just saw this. And I went, well, that's not really what happened, but let's, I think, though, as a judge, you have to block all of that out and just keep that out of your reasoning. And that's hard whenever you're in an elected position. But I think that as a judge, that's the only thing you can do. Yeah,
and you're right. It's a balance because you're an elected official, but you can't look at it that way. You've got to look at everything from the perspective of the law and consider all evidence one way or the other, right?
And it's hard because, say, if you're dealing with a case and your prosecutor or district attorney is getting a bunch of heat on social media, they can walk outside, have a press conference, explain their actions, explain why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
The judge isn't able to do that.
No.
There's no public comment on the ongoing controversy.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I haven't thought about that, but very good point. How do you envision the role of the judiciary evolving? We talked about social media, and one thing that I noticed a lot of, and primarily because I watch a lot of it, is a lot of things are on like court TV now and televised hearings of these very high profile cases and court cases. So that to me would be one way that it's already evolved. It used to be if you wanted to go to a trial and sit in on that trial, you were there and all you had was a pen and a piece of paper. I mean, you're not allowed to video, do anything. Well, that's relaxed a lot to the point that some people get upset when a judge will say, I don't want cameras in the courtroom, that kind of thing. And I would imagine that the high profility, if that's a word, of that case definitely plays a part because the public, there's some advantageous things to having a camera in the courtroom. The public gets to see how the whole system operates. And I think it's a beautiful system. And I love it that people have been exposed to that. without having to actually go and travel to that. Of course, the O.J. Simpson case was the one that kind of blew the whole lid off of televised cases. I mean, more people watch that than the Super Bowl, I think, that year. What do you think about the next decade and how the judicial process in itself is going to go?
I feel like we have to open ourselves up more to the public, and I think it's great because it's increased public interest. I mean, OJ, I can remember watching that, sitting on, it came on, you watched Young and the Restless and OJ.
Yeah. Everybody knew Judge Lance Ito.
Right.
I remember that name to this day, and he's way out in California or wherever he was. The Murdaugh trial recently.
Yes. So
Creighton Waters, wow, he was good.
And it's great because I think, whenever after that trial, you have people showing up for jury duty who are excited because they just watched the Murdaugh trial.
Yes.
You also, though, have to explain to them, hey, we're in a smaller courtroom in Louisiana without those resources, and note this, we're not going to sequester you. You won't be here for a month.
Right.
You can go home tonight.
Yeah.
And yes. And that, trying to get people to understand, each district's a little different. And once you go state to state, that varies hugely.
Sure.
But I think that the public interest that it brings definitely outweighs any negativity that can be explained.
I agree 100%. And, we talked a little bit earlier, not to backtrack, but you had mentioned the fact that in courtrooms and things like that these days, the responsibility of the judge and, that kind of starts at a young age when you have these aspirations to be whatever it is you want to be. Mm-hmm. And I always use this as an analogy. When kids are trick-or-treating, I used to see a bunch of police officer kids, right, that come up in a cop uniform or whatever. I don't see a whole lot of that anymore. And I think one of the issues with police right now is caseload.
Right.
The same as attorneys and judges, and you have all this just massive caseload, and so everything slows down, and you can't work from a police officer's case. You can't spend the time you would like to spend on every single case,
right,
because you got 400 of them. And same thing from the perspective of the court system. It turns slow because there's 400 of them, which is why this division came into existence, kind of lighten that up with all of this kind of evolving with TV in the courtroom, that kind of thing. Maybe we'll start seeing some judges come up trick-or-treating at 9 years old, 10 years old in a black robe,
It's funny that you said that about the police officers and all, too. I think it is, too, what we're exposing our kids to.
Yes.
And I think Paw Patrol has really helped.
Yes.
But, they're not watching, our society has reached a point, I feel like, where many people don't praise our police officers like they should.
Right.
And they are just overworked, I believe, and like you said, lack of resources. I know It's funny that my little boy, I have to beg him to take off his police uniform everywhere we go. He would wear it all day, every day.
I love that.
I had to get him two so that he had one whenever I washed the other. He is now telling people, he goes around, vote for my mommy. If you don't, I'm going to arrest you.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah. And I'm trying to explain to him, baby, you can't do that. No, come on. But that started because my mom, with watching him, she got tired of the cartoons that are on TV. And she's a big one, let's watch Scooby-Doo. There's so much in cartoons now. And she just says, I know if we're watching Scooby-Doo or Bugs Bunny, they're not trying to send a message to the 4-year-old.
Right.
So she started, going old school. Then also she started watching cop shows with him. Yeah. And that developed, and now, I have a little, we call him Sheriff Shep. His name's Shep.
Love that. Yeah. Love that. Yeah, very good. Now, let me ask you, you've been an attorney for quite a while, and what would you say is a memorable moment for you in your role as an attorney?
I would say my adoption cases.
Yeah.
Those, and that adoptions are always our happy days in court because there are, just very tragic days. There's your blah days, but adoptions always end on a high note.
Yeah.
And you're looking at a family being made when so often in court, families are being torn apart.
Oh, that's a really good, true quote. That's right.
And that in the adoption process, I often will represent parents seeking to adopt or children being adopted.
Yeah.
I'll be appointed to represent them.
Yeah.
And then also I've represented parents who are fighting the adoption.
Sure.
And that, it's always difficult, but you're really at that point the judge is looking at the best interest of the child and making sure that that's served in their decision.
Yeah. And it's serious business. I mean, judgeships are serious because you are the deciding factor really in someone's life at a major level.
Right.
Yeah. And so you really want someone. That's why I'm continuing to hammer down someone that can relate to a lot of different aspects of life.
Exactly. And people so often say, hey, I haven't never seen a judge before. I'm never going to see a judge. And I'm going, you don't know that. You could be
never say never.
Right. You could be the victim of a crime.
Yes.
You could have a family member that develops a drug problem. All of these things happen. You could be in a car wreck.
Yeah.
All of these things happen to just about everyone I know, and that puts you in that courtroom. And you
That's
don't
right.
expect it, but it's one of those things. Don't say it can't happen to you because it can happen to anyone.
That's right. That's right. And let me ask you, what's the most enjoyable thing about working in the legal field for you?
I love the people aspect of it.
Yeah.
I also, though, I'm a very big researcher, a bookworm. I love legal research.
Yeah.
I love, reading opinions, figuring out the different reasons that judges are ruling certain ways, the different reasons different laws are made, how they should be followed, how your case law supports different aspects of those laws, and how some case law says, yeah, but in this instance, you can differ.
In your career thus far, when you were, I want to take you back to when you first, you got out of law school, you're doing your first cases. Did you envision your path leading to this at that point in time in your life?
That was always my hope.
Yeah.
It really was.
Love that.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been a goal kind of from the beginning for you.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
And that's why I've worked to make sure that I understand all areas of the law so that I can best serve as a judge.
Yeah.
And from different perspectives as well, as you said, on both sides of cases. And I think that that's just hugely important in this role.
What message do you want to convey to voters who are considering you as a candidate? What is something that, I don't want to say a campaign promise because that doesn't sound right, but what is it that you really want people to know?
I really want them to know I will do my very best to assist our community in whatever way I can as a judge.
Yeah.
And I think that you truly are able to, especially in juvenile court. You're dealing with people, and in misdemeanor court, you're dealing with people who might be, I guess for lack of a better term, they're at the gateway.
Yeah.
And you can consider yourself as a gatekeeper and look and try to figure out if you're able to figure out and I guess crack the case and figure out the best penalty for the people in front of you in criminal court that would rehabilitate them, then you have saved a life.
Yeah.
And some of these people and some of these crimes, they need to be punished harshly. I'm not at all second guessing that, and I will not waver in those situations.
Yeah.
But what really interests me are the others who've come before you, and it might be that they just didn't have a support system and they fell into the wrong crowd. And, it might be a crime that's quote unquote, victimless. It might be that they got caught in possession.
Yeah.
And you can figure out, okay, is this someone who I can get to a support group and who a support group would benefit? And if so, can we try this before we try something else?
Yeah. I think that's hugely important. And look, from one aspect of the legal system all the way to where, these people are sentenced to prison in some cases. It's no secret that our prisons are loaded with prisoners, right? I mean, they're overflowing and in some cases justified and they need to be there. But in some cases, taking pressure off of that by looking outside the box a little bit.
Right.
Just step outside the box and see what other options are available. It's not a bad thing. And that's what I would look for in anyone that I would be voting for judge, for sure.
Right.
So, how can people support your campaign? Okay, so everybody's heard this and they're all, vote for Lindy. How do they support you?
You can reach out on Facebook.
Yeah.
Also, I have a website that you can go to.
Yeah.
Any questions that you have, any requests, of course, you are more than welcome to. I've been checking my Facebook messages. I get a ton of them, so I may be a day or two behind in responding, but I am doing that.
Yep, very good. And a couple of fun questions for you. Favorite TV judge, if you had to pick a TV judge?
Judge Judy.
Judge Judy is awesome. Look, that's the first thing that came to my mind when I was reading it. Judge Judy is awesome. And the best out of, they had a bunch of them come after that. Judge Judy was where it was at.
I love to.
No nonsense.
My grandmother, whenever she was older, I was very close with her, and my grandfather, they kind of moved from, The Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune, and would really watch court TV more so. And I would laugh because, they're getting on there and they're fighting, and I'd go over there and visit, and I'd be getting, the worst headache. And then it clicked with me. I think they were doing that because it just reminded them of our family. They're all in there arguing with each other, having all of their issues hashed out.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of their way of tapping back whenever they were more involved with people. And, as people age, less and less come and visit.
Right.
So I think that it just made them probably feel a little more comfortable.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I got a little fun information for all of you out there on the law that I'll share with. I actually looked up obscure laws in Louisiana, and I found this interesting. Biting someone with your natural teeth is simple assault. But if you bite someone with false teeth, it's considered aggravated assault. I don't know why, but I'm going to research it, I promise you. I guess maybe if you have false teeth, it's considered like a weapon of some sort, maybe, because I don't know.
I could envision someone doing something to their teeth somehow, or to their false teeth to cause more harm.
Yeah.
Maybe
if they took them out and
but
hit him over the head with it. I don't know, but that's in the books.
It could be that one of our legislators got bitten by someone with false teeth, and they wanted a more severe punishment.
That could be. Yeah. Very good. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your hard work on your campaign. Anybody out there that has followed you on Facebook can see you are everywhere. And I sure appreciate that. And quickly, early voting is 18th through the 29th of October, correct?
Yes.
And so you are number 35?
That's right.
November 5th, of course, the big day.
Oh, yes.
But if you can get out there and early vote, do it, because it's going to be a long line the day of, right?
Yes, definitely.
A couple of other elections going on that day as well.
Yeah, nothing too major.
Nothing too major. Lindy's on there. It's all you need to know. You might see a president on there somewhere, a presidential thing, but just make sure you vote 35, right?
Exactly.
There you go. Thank you again for coming on. I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yep, and good luck to you. You coming up on the end. It's almost here.
27 days. Not that I'm counting.
Nope, not that you're counting. All right. And to all of you, thank you very much for listening, subscribing, sharing the podcast. And we're going to link Miss Lindon MaGee's information for her Facebook, etc., in the description of this video. So just click on that and it'll take you right there where you need to go. We'll link her website as well. So until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, reminding you, love your community, support local business, and keep leading. Thank you very much.